time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
You got to keep working. You got to keep just going at every pitch, at every at-bat the same way. And it's funny, sometimes we get hot and can't stop us, and other days not so much. So just need to keep working and staying positive and pushing forward.
Very difficult to hit from 2 strike counts when you're facing really good arms like Georgia has. So, got to be more competitive at the plate. And, overall, they just outplayed us. They were the better team tonight. And hopefully we can learn from some of our mistakes. But they deserve the credit. They were the better team.
It's one of the golf courses I said at the beginning of last year that I was excited for because of familiarity with the golf course. And yeah, obviously I'm excited to be back this year as defending champion. And the game is in a good spot. So hopefully come Sunday, we'll have a chance to put on another plaid jacket.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Here on a Wednesday, finally, I think we can welcome spring to the Palmetto State. It feels good out there, and I think it's only going to get better, except for some rain maybe on Sunday. But the temperature's climbing, finally, and that's good, and we can get outside and enjoy the weather here in the great state of South Carolina. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic with you tonight. The Professor Tom Hayes is off. Brian Leonard is here as well. Our phone number, 800-956-7266. We're open for your calls tonight. Lots to talk about. Clemson football, USC Clemson baseball, upstate basketball. The new coach will be joining us, Dave Dickerson of the Spartans. We'll find out from him how things are going so far. Today's the first day of the spring signing period for college basketball. USC has inked the 2 players committed to it here for the spring signing period. Clemson is losing another player as Scara announced today that he is turning pro.
He is, Corn. This is kind of a little bit of an oddball thing for Clemson. David Scara, the Vanderbilt transfer, Valparaiso transfer, pardon me. He ends up leaving Clemson as basically a redshirt junior. He will graduate. This is his 4th year in school, so he will graduate on time. So this is not necessarily a leaving early. He had this red shirt, obviously, because of him sitting out for that transfer year. And according to the release from Clemson, he's going to pursue professional opportunities. I'm making an educated assumption and thinking that those professional opportunities are possibly overseas. I don't know if he projects very highly in the NBA draft or possibly the G League. I don't think those are necessarily realistic for him. But he's from Croatia. I think this could be an opportunity with his degree to go back across the pond, see what's out there. And if things don't work out, he at least has his degree from Clemson. But now that leaves Clemson with 3 openings, 10 roster spots currently filled, but 2 pending, as you know, because of Shelton Mitchell and Marquise Reed having submitted their names for consideration for the NBA draft, but not necessarily hiring any agents. They have until the 30th of May to pull those back out. But the cupboard could be bare or it could be fully stocked, depending on the decisions those 2 make, and obviously what the Tigers do in the late signing period.
Well, I like to look at this team as it stands right now. If Reed and Mitchell come back, that will give them 3 seniors with Reed, Mitchell, and Thomas.
Yes.
So that's not bad to build around. You got a quality big man. You got a veteran backcourt, so that's good. And one's a point and one's a shooter. That's good balance. That gives you what you need. And then you got the young guys, Oliver, Williams, Sims, and Trapp, who all played a pretty fair amount at one point or another this season. Oliver late, Sims pretty much throughout the season. Trapp and William were kind of in and out.
Yeah.
And then you've got the signees coming in, Newman, who is 6'5", Tyson, who is 6'8", and Jamison, who is 6'11". Jamison sounds to me like one of those hidden gems that Brad Brownell is pulling out of the state of Alabama, who in a year or 2 could develop into a really good big man.
It's going to be interesting to kind of see how differently this team looks next season and how they go about looking, because the one thing I believe is that they relied almost way too much on the 3-point shot. And I know that they were very, very productive and efficient scoring the 3, but they're going to need to diversify their offense, because I think so much of what they lose on defense from David Scara, they'll have to make up with increased efficiency on the offensive end. They're going to need to find easier ways to score, especially when the three doesn't fall.
All right, 800-956-7266. Speaking of basketball players departing, USC women will be losing Bianca Cuevas-Moore. She is transferring to West Virginia, announced today by West Virginia, former McDonald's All-American, and good player at South Carolina. See, she was hurt pretty good bit this past season. I think that there was some, question as to whether or not she would come back for another year or maybe leave for the WNBA perhaps, or was there? I don't recall there being much thought about her going to another school to finish up.
Well, I know that when she didn't apply for a medical red shirt, it basically ended her USC career. Whether or not that meant she was going to submit for the WNBA or try to play overseas, that kind of remained to be seen. Mm-hmm. So I think one way or another, the writing was on the wall about her career being over at USC. But the fact of the matter is, now that she's graduated, she can have that fresh start, the graduate transfer, play for a team in the Big 12. And, it's going to be obviously interesting to see how that plays out, because you're going from one highly powered league to another one that has obviously a lot of very good teams. West Virginia, not necessarily known as a big traditional power, but obviously she feels that she can get some high exposure there.
Yeah, I wonder what the attraction was for her to West Virginia in terms of why them. I mean, if you're going to continue your career and you're coming from South Carolina and you're a former McDonald's All-American, you would think there would have been some much more high-profile opportunities out there for you, but that's where she has opted to go, and so that'll be another player that Dawn Staley is going to have to replace for next year. Of course, she's out there recruiting, trying to fill the holes in her team, and so we have those two players departing their respective squads, signing with South Carolina today. The two players who had committed to them for the spring signing period, Alonzo Frink, the 6'9" forward out of New Jersey, and Jermaine Couisnard, 6'4" guard out of Montverde Prep. Actually, he's from Chicago, or just outside of Chicago, but he goes to Montverde Prep in Florida. So those look like two good pickups for South Carolina. We've had the coach of Frink on, and we've had Couisnard on. Couisnard's a scorer. He's a guy that came on this year, and as the scouts watched him throughout the season, he got rave reviews from the analysts, and Frank Martin and Chuck Martin went in there and recruited him. They were able to get him. I think this is a case where Chuck Martin's background in the Indiana area certainly helped in recruiting him. He's a big guard, 6'4", so that'll be good for South Carolina in the backcourt. And then Frink is a guy coming in, 6'9", 245, big-bodied with some skills, some perimeter skills. But as his coach told us last week, they did like to run their offense through him in the low post.
This is a situation, I think, with Frank Martin where he's taken basically all the dead weight off the bone. And, you think about Doumbia transferring, Gay transferring, what happens beyond the rest of this remains to be seen as well. But still a couple of spots remaining for them. And when you think about where South Carolina struggled mostly last year, they said they were the best shooting team under Frank Martin, but they were not taking the kind of shots in games that led to that reputation. They were kind of team that looked great in shoot around, great when they were playing against air, great when they were playing against themselves, but when they strapped it up against major competition, they struggled mightily. And at times, too, they lacked the defensive intensity that Frank Martin expects. And I think if anything's going to happen for them next year, that is one thing that cannot slip.
800-956-7266. If you'd like to join in on Sports Talk tonight, lines will be open for you as we go on through the program. But we've got just a ton of stuff to bring your way. Of course, we'll hear from the coaches from last night, baseball from USC. The Gamecocks getting a nice win down at the Citadel, avenging the loss earlier in the year. So Mark Kingston has something to feel good about. Monty Lee not feeling so good. You were at that game at North Augusta. Tigers taking on the chin from Georgia. Georgia puts together a big inning and knocks around Clemson pitching and gets that victory.
And does something, too, that Clemson really hasn't seen much of, and that is throw strikes and get the Tiger hitters behind in counts. They found themselves in too many disadvantageous at-bats where they were either down 0-2 or 1-2, having to foul pitches off and possibly swing at things out of the strike zone. 13 batters struck out by Georgia pitching yesterday. That's not a stat that Monty Lee's happy about.
Clemson has wrapped up the practices for spring practice. They have the game on Saturday. they're talking up there. We'll bring some of that to you as well. We'll be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Phone number here on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. Be sure you check out foundersfcu.com and learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. Let me update a couple of other things, and then we'll get to some phone calls. Love to hear from you tonight about now the end of spring football for the most part, getting ready for a few months away from football. Not many. Before you know it, we'll be jumping right back on the football train. We've got the volunteer workouts for the NFL team starting to crop up. The NFL draft is just a couple of weeks away.
Preseason schedules came out today.
Okay, that's always exciting. I kind of, put that on my calendar. That's big.
Do you want the Panthers preseason schedule?
We'll get to that in just a little bit. So anyway, got football tonight with Clemson wrapping things up until the spring game on Saturday. Let you hear from some of the Tigers coming up. More baseball as well. Recruiting coming up too. The Braves won today in Washington. Boy, they blew it in the bottom of the ninth. Took a 1-0 lead into the bottom of the ninth. Lost it. Had to go 12. They finally won it 5-3.
They blew it twice. They ended up scoring in the 11th and blowing it there as well.
Other finals today, Minnesota beat Houston 9-8. Milwaukee over St. Louis 3-2. The White Sox finally win a home game 2-1 over Tampa Bay. Seattle beat Kansas City 4-2. Colorado over San Diego 6-4.
Chicago White Sox going to be your son's new adopted team now that he's moved to the Windy City?
Well, he'll still be a Yankee fan because that's in his blood. But since he lives in Chicago now, yes, he'll be going to White Sox games. Yes,
not White Sox, not Cubs.
Well, his new people, his soon-to-be new people are White Sox fans. So
gotcha.
Arizona leading San Fran 7-3, top of the eighth, and of course later on it's game 2 of the Yankees and the Red Sox. And I have to tip my cap to the Red Sox. They took it to us last night.
That didn't look good for y'all last night.
That was ugly. That was very ugly.
That's one again. Just saying.
Yes. I'm aware. We should mention that USC has changed its pitching rotation for this Arkansas series. Logan Chapman going to start tomorrow night. Adam Hill on Friday. Cody Morris on Saturday.
Smart move, just because of the fact that they want to keep Adam Hill on turn with the tendonitis in his shoulder. And I think in this regard, the way South Carolina has been playing on Sundays, maybe they can get a little momentum forward with their usual Friday night starter starting the second game of the series and possibly maybe go for a series win with one of their better pitchers, Cody Morris, pitching in the finale.
Of course, this is RBC Heritage Week. We'll hear from Dustin Johnson. We'll hear from Wesley Bryan coming up on the program. Action begins tomorrow. Will be down covering that the next 2 days. And this arrest story from up at Clemson keeps getting a little darker as more information comes out. The state newspaper obtained 911 calls from a person who was in the apartment that was allegedly robbed by former Clemson players C.J. Fuller and Jadar Johnson, as well as former Duke lineman Quaven Ferguson. They're all charged with robbery, possession of a weapon during a violent crime back on March 28th. And according to this story, the apartment they robbed was the apartment of a Clemson football player, a teammate of theirs before they were off the team.
Not so friendly fire, unfortunately.
Apparently, they knew that there was some money there.
That's bad.
I don't know how much money, but apparently a wad of cash.
And there was a gun there, too, apparently, that was taken. And a
gun was taken. Yeah, pretty nasty situation there. So, again, this just goes to show you that whether it's Clemson or South Carolina or Washington or Michigan, things like this, when you got 85, 100 people together in a group, you get some what appear to be good people, but then they become some bad apples for whatever reason, and it could happen anywhere. And this Clemson's time now to deal with this. This was an ugly situation. I mean, they knocked on the door. According to the girlfriend of the player who owned the apartment, she opened the door. She was napping. Somebody knocked on the door. She opened it. A man wearing a hooded sweatshirt and holding a handgun pushed her back into the apartment. Second man ran into the apartment, also pushed her back. They rummaged through the cabinets above the refrigerator. She ran outside, saw a third suspect at the bottom of the stairs. She ran back into the apartment toward the back bedroom. One of the suspects followed her and threw her onto the bed, according to the report. During this scuffle, the victim pulled out a small patch of the suspect's hair, which was collected by police. The man grabbed cash from a bedroom drawer. All three men ran toward the front door of the apartment, one of them grabbing her iPhone on the way out. Minutes before Clemson police received the 911 call about the robbery, the suspects spoke to a parking enforcement officer in the downtown parking garage. According to the report, the officer was writing a ticket for the vehicle next to the white Mercedes and saw the men run to the car, get in, and leave.
Mm.
Victim's cell phone was later found in the pool area of the apartment complex, which the suspects would have had to run through as they left, according to the report. This is written by Matt Connolly of the state newspaper, did a nice job on this. So all three were charged March 28th, released on bond the following day. And police wrote in the supplemental report that Johnson was allowed to make a phone call from jail during which he said to his mom that he, quote, did something stupid, end quote. They face up to 30 years in prison on the armed robbery charge and up to 10 years on the weapon charge if convicted.
Crazy.
All right, let's go to the phones, 800-956-7266. Don in Monetta. Welcome in, sir, to Sports Talk. How are you?
Phil, how are you, bud?
Good.
I remember a couple of months ago when I called, you told me to get that TuneIn app, which I have done, and I had a chance to listen to you a lot while I've been in the Tar Heel State. But I wanted to call you to congratulate you on the award. You know, we've grown old together. I'm a little bit older than you, but I've been with you since you started, and I just remember, you know, how when the recruiting was just, you know, that one big time of year in February, how we would have that Sunday night show. You used to have that. And, you know, how I'd be, you know, sitting anxiously waiting, you know, on commitments. I know it's become a 12-month job now, and I appreciate all you do. And I was reading the thing on the email today, and it mentioned Mr. Helms and Coach Carlin. It mentioned Mr. Ron Mars and Spurrier, but it left out Phil Kornblut and Judy Gaston. I was wondering why that wasn't added in there as well.
I don't understand your question. What email are you talking about? And
that was a tongue-in-cheek, Phil. Your daily email that goes out to all of the sports talk. I'm sure you don't do it, but it was just like a news release of your award, but that you got it, and it mentioned Herman and it mentioned Carlin.
I got you.
I was just
he's trying to make a jab. Just fine.
Listen, I mean,
was throwing in a bad joke.
No. That's absolutely fine. First of all, I appreciate you calling and your kind words there. And
you're the best in the business, Phil, and I really appreciate you. And I think I probably appreciate you more since I've been out of state with some of the stuff that I have to listen to is what they call sports talk up here in the Raleigh area, because it is nothing like I had just kind of grown being used to with you and the pro and with K-Mac and now with Will. I like Will when I've heard him. So I really hope you can go for 34 more years, because I hope I'm going to be around to listen to you.
Well, me too. Thank you. Thank you very much. The only person here who is rooting against that would be Will, of course, because he was like for me to just die tomorrow.
But that's not true.
Well, you like to give me maybe another year. I'm not mad at anybody. You know, I know you were kind of poking fun about the little Twitter exchange there, going back to the stuff with WIS television, but I'm not mad at anybody. You know, going back to that, you know, I made my Twitter comment about it and stand by it to this day. And I don't think I was wrong. I think some people got off topic as to the point I was trying to make, and you can agree with my point or disagree with my point.
Your comments ended up being taken out of context incorrectly.
Well, I mean, it should not have become a personal thing between me and anybody else in the media. All right, we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Yeah, I just want to finish my thoughts that I was making there at the very end of the segment. When I made my comment on Twitter about what Channel 10 as an organization through their Twitter tweeted, I wasn't singling out a person. I didn't know who had tweeted it. Just to revisit this for just a second, I didn't know who had tweeted it. It was a response to an organization. And then Miss Gaston jumped over and joined into the fray, and that's where that took off. So I didn't single out anybody in advance, and didn't care to take on anybody individually. I was responding to an organizational tweet on their organizational timeline that showed up on our timeline. That's all. And I stated my personal feeling about news organizations thanking individuals that they cover. Now, part of the feedback was, well, can you congratulate somebody? Can you say as an organization, congratulations to the South Carolina Gamecocks for making the Final Four? As an organization covering them, can the state newspaper or can South Carolina Radio Network or can WIS-TV tweet out congratulations to the South Carolina Gamecocks for a great season? To me, that doesn't cross the line quite like saying thank you to an individual player. Thank you for everything.
Stick to the facts, man. That's it. Just stick to the facts.
Do you agree or disagree?
I'm just saying.
What's your position?
My position is you state to the facts. There's a way to say it instead of gushing out and being all mushy about it. Just be, hey, South Carolina Gamecocks have made the Final Four. Let everybody else react. But now we have people wanting to do clickbait stuff, and oh, congratulations, lovely, and it's all that other stuff. Again, my position is unchanged from the whole thing. I thought we were done with this.
Well, Don brought it up, but he was making a joke, and I didn't know. I couldn't tell exactly if he was making a joke at first or if he was kind of baiting me into a little bit of an argument there.
I have no interest in re-adjudicating that whole situation.
Well, yeah, same here. I mean, it's over and done with, and it's in the past. But I didn't bring it up, but I have to respond. It's in my human DNA. 800-956-7266 is the number. And email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Don't forget to catch us. If you lose us over the airways, we prefer, of course, that you catch us over one of our stations, and hopefully you can stay with us over the air. That's what we do. That's what we do here on radio. That's why it's radio. But should you lose us, you can go to our Periscope on Twitter. You can watch and listen there. You can catch us on the TuneIn app, as Don pointed out. We appreciate him mentioning that. We still have our YouTube feed of the program as well. So several ways to catch us if you lose us over the airwaves. Baseball tonight in the state. Let's catch you up on what's happening there, because we've got another good matchup in Charleston tonight. You've got the College of Charleston and the Citadel. College of Charleston and the Citadel playing tonight. Citadel coming off its loss to South Carolina last night, and they have lost. The Bulldogs have 8 in a row, so they're just getting underway against the Cougars, who are 25-9. Virginia Tech today beat Marshall 17-3. And what else do we have? Tennessee on top of Tennessee Martin 7-0, bottom of the 7th. Georgia State leading Georgia Tech 2-0 in the top of the 2nd. Quinnipiac is leading Boston College 5-4 in the 7th, and Wofford beat Presbyterian today 3-2 to improve to 23-11. All right, so we've got the RBC Heritage beginning tomorrow. Always a great weekend. Thousands of fans from across the state of South Carolina, from across the country, will converge on Hilton Head and Sea Pines and Harbor Town. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. The weather hopefully will be good and conducive to great golf. Totally different from last week, where everything is overanalyzed and pressure-packed. This is still, it's professional golf, and the guys, they're competing, and their juices get going, and they want to win. But this is more of a family atmosphere. You'll see a lot of the kids hanging around, and the guys are a little more loosey-goosey than they are at the Masters, those who've come over from Augusta, and of course a completely different type of golf course than what they played last week.
A different golf course, and I think a different feel for this particular Heritage because of the attraction that will be with world #1 player Dustin Johnson coming home to his home state to play in the Heritage. First time in a while. Part of that, the sponsor in RBC. He is, of course, very heavily involved with them, so they've contracted him to not only play in this course for not only this year, but also the next couple.
I'm definitely excited to be back. It's always good to play in your home state. And, being the 50th anniversary, it's I think it's going to be a great year, a great event. The weather looks like it's going to be all right. I haven't been here in a long time, so it's definitely nice to come back and play. I'm definitely excited about the event. I feel like the season's gone pretty well. I've contended in most of the tournaments. Obviously got off to a great start there in Hawaii. Winning, one of the first events, and but I've been up there around the, with a chance to win on Sunday. Pretty much every event I've been in this year. So that's always my goal, is just give myself a chance to win, and I felt like I've done very well with that. I haven't done a great job of winning, but the game is definitely in good form. I've got a lot of confidence in the game right now, and I'm really looking forward to this week. As we all know, it's very difficult to win out here. The guys, the talent level of the guys on tour is very high, and it's hard to get it done. And so to win 11 consecutive years is something I'm very proud of, and I want to continue that streak. Well, I definitely expect better. I felt like I played well enough to win last week. I didn't putt well enough to win. It wasn't. It's pretty simple. I know exactly what I need to work on, and it was the putting. I struck the ball very well. I drove it good. I did everything really well. It just didn't. The thing that's most frustrating is it wasn't that I was hitting bad putts. I was actually hitting good putts, and none of them were going in. So it was, I think I was more frustrated about that. At least, if I was hitting bad ones, I know why they're not going in. I pulled it or I pushed it, or but I was hitting good ones and they weren't going in, and it felt like on every single hole. And so it gets a little frustrating, but I kept grinding and kept, trying my best, but it just wasn't going in.
And DJ will tee off on number 10 tee at 8:10 tomorrow morning in Harbortown. In his group, the defending champion, Wesley Bryan.
I mean, it really goes back to farther than just last year. I've played some junior events on this golf course in the Junior Heritage and played a lot of recreationally out here growing up. So it's more of a comfort level that I have. One in the state of South Carolina, specifically on this island, played a lot of junior golf and a lot of, like I said, recreational golf here. So being familiar with the area, familiar with the golf course, puts me in a good frame of mind. And even though it's only my second year on tour, I feel like I still have probably logged a few more miles around this place than your average tour player. So it's one of the golf courses I said at the beginning of last year that I was excited for because of familiarity with the golf course. And yeah, obviously I'm excited to be back this year as defending champion, and the game is in a good spot. So hopefully come Sunday, we'll have a chance to put on another plaid jacket. The putter always feels pretty good in my hands. So that's the part that I struggled with last week a little bit, which was kind of uncharacteristic, and it's part of my game that I've relied on since I was a kid. So yeah, I'll take the putter in my hand.
Most of the notables going off in the morning, at least of note, and we'll kind of sprinkle those in throughout the rest of the show just to kind of give you, if you're going down to Hilton Head, a little feel on when things will be happening.
All right, very good. 800-956-7266 is the phone number, and it's a special time, RBC Heritage. This is the 50th anniversary, and it's been a great event for the state of South Carolina. We get one PGA Tour event. We get one NASCAR event now, and we need to make sure that they stay healthy and financially viable through the support of the fans of the state of South Carolina, and also, of course, whatever businesses want to jump in there and gather up some sponsorship spots.
This is the one thing that actually my involvement with an event in the state of South Carolina actually predates my time here. I mean, I've been going to the Heritage for a while, just in my vacationing down in Hilton Head, so I'm excited.
It is really a heck of a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll have a good, tight leaderboard with some great competition leading up to Sunday.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It really wasn't that funny.
It was funny.
No, it was seriously, Brian, people that laugh at their own jokes louder than the other people around them. That's a little bit
It wasn't
weird.
a joke. It was something I read.
Yeah, but I mean, it really wasn't funny.
I found it funny.
Okay.
I found it funny.
Well, that's an indication of your sense of humor. 800-956-7266. Here's our number here on Sports Talk. Welcome back in. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic. Brian Leonard with you from downtown Columbia. In a moment, give you tonight's recruiting report. Stay tuned for that. Let's give you a little more from looking ahead to the first round of the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head, which gets underway in the morning.
So one of the big tee times in the morning, as we mentioned earlier, the 8:10 tee time off of 10T between Dustin Johnson, Wesley Bryan, and Matt Kuchar, former champion of this event.
Cooch.
Again at 8:10.
They're not booing.
Some of the other.
They're saying Cooch.
750.
Hey, man, don't get lost out there at the 18th. Have you been out to the 18th before?
I have. I know where.
Between 17 and 18, the little village out there.
Little village.
Woo! A lot of good stuff going on out there now.
Just look for the lighthouse. That's all I have to do.
What I miss more than anything else, and this will be a plug, I guess, but I miss the old what was the name of it? What's that vodka? A Goose, Grey Goose.
Grey Goose.
The Grey Goose House. Did you know the Grey Goose House?
I did not know the Grey Goose.
Well,
House.
Grey Goose.
Yes.
And I guess their corporate people and their distributors, they would rent this house at the 17th green. I'm sorry, 17th tee, coming off 16 green, 17 tees. Beautiful house. And they would invite people from the media to come out there to just hang out. I mean, they had food, and I was there one time, and
do I have your permission to visit the Goose House?
Well, it's not there anymore.
Oh.
I mean, they've moved it away. It's somewhere else. I don't know where it moved to. But Nikki Haley, when she was governor, used to come in there and visit and shake hands and politicians. Yeah, hobnob. But you could sit on the back porch and watch the golfers finish up on 16 and then tee off on 17.
Some of the other tee times.
If you hadn't had too much to drink by then.
Stuart Sink at 750 at T10, of course. He's paired with former Masters champion Zach Johnson in his threesome. Mark Leishman at 8 o'clock in the morning, along with native Bill Haas, T1 there. Kevin Kisner will tee off a 10T on that same tee time at 8, also with former champion Jim Furyk. William McGirt is teeing off at 12:30. Luke Donald and off of 1T at 12:30 as well. Davis Love III, former champion of this event, teeing off with Ian Poulter
multiple.
And Paul Casey at T1. Lucas Glover also 12:40 T number 10 as well. And Doc Redman, the Clemson amateur, teeing off at 1:30 on T number 1 with Chad Campbell, among others.
I think Davis has his son in the field as well.
He does.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Tiger Bryan up in Lancaster. Haven't heard from Tiger Bryan in a little while. Good to have you with. Hey, let me get your prediction on the Clemson spring game Saturday. Who you think's going to win, Clemson or Clemson?
Clemson will win.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? The question I got. Hey, I've been listening to y'all, but I've been busy. I retired and everything. I've been busy.
What'd you retire from? What did you retire from?
I retired from Lake County School District, 31 years.
School teacher?
Yeah, over there.
They trust you to shape the minds of America's youth, Tiger Brian.
Okay.
That is the shock of the century.
I'm telling you.
I miss y'all calling.
Well, you can start calling back.
I just say, you have to call us. The phone doesn't work both ways the way it works, man. We can't call you.
My question is, we got 4 stud quarterbacks. Well, 3.5. How many you think some transfer after they make their decision starting this year? Yeah.
Well, I don't think they're going to announce anything until the fall, so I don't foresee anybody leaving because they're not going to know anything, except we will know Kelly Bryant will be the starter going into fall practice. There's no question about that. They're not going to change anything there. And I guess you're going to see what happens in fall camp. I wouldn't expect – I mean, I can't think for the players, but, I mean, if they're going to be transfers, it'll be after the 2018 season because by then the handwriting will be on the wall. Of course, Kelly will be gone, so there'll be one less quarterback in the mix. And if you're – it all depends on which of the other 3, and everybody expects it to be Trevor Lawrence, but it depends who's going to be that next guy in on a regular basis when the time and opportunity calls for the backup to go in.
Or who they get in 2019 possibly. For the class of 2019 as
well.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to try and sign a quarterback here in 2019, but they've missed on their number 1 target, and I think they've missed partially because of the existence of Trevor Lawrence being there.
Well, the weirdest thing is so much of what is predicated on who plays is experience. And, you know, we saw it in South Carolina spring game. Kerryon Joyner, very raw. You could come out in Clemson spring game and see some very big rawness from Trevor Lawrence and from the other 2 quarterbacks as well.
You read the stuff coming out of Clemson from the website guys covering him, and this like Trevor Lawrence is ready to step in right now. He's ready.
Well, they already
got
him.
The arm. Yeah, he's got the arm. He's got all the throws. He's ready. So I expect Trevor Lawrence, given the opportunity Saturday, to put on a show.
I would like to see what he looks like against an opposing defense. I think Clemson's defense is not very, very big, but so much of what we've seen, though, in these spring games and these spring practices, there's some handcuffs on that defense. They want to see the offensive shine.
Clemson's defense will be handcuffed as well on Saturday. You're not going to be able to hit the quarterback. I'll tell you that. They're not going to be live.
They're not going to blitz.
No. It's going to be vanilla. But I just want to see Trevor Lawrence in the pocket, cutting it loose, and how that ball comes out of his hand is, you know, special passers. That ball comes out of your hand in a special way, and apparently he has that. Hey, Tiger Brian, good hearing from you. Happy retirement, and keep in touch. Let's do recruiting now. We begin with linebacker Brighton Constantin of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He went to LSU on Tuesday, which is like right in his backyard, because he goes to University Lab High School, which is on the LSU campus or right next to it. LSU hasn't offered, and they told him to come to camp this summer, work out. But that's really not an issue with him because he's favoring Clemson. He's going to spend the weekend ahead with those Tigers. His entire family, they're all going to Clemson for the spring game, arriving on Thursday night. He also visited Clemson for a spring practice in March. They've been strong with him ever since. And he says he's just going to have a good time. He knows everything he needs to know. Going to do some relationship building with coaches and players. This will be unofficial. He said he'll be back for an official visit. He's had Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, TCU, Houston on his short list, but Clemson stands out. And I don't know, wouldn't be surprised if he falls into the Clemson class this weekend. We'll have to wait and see if he decides to make the decision at that particular time. But that one looks very good for Clemson. Here looks good for South Carolina, I'd say. Linebacker Derek Boykins of Concord, North Carolina, told us last night he knows where he would commit if he were to do so right now. He said he has a silent top 3, which means he's just not saying who they are. But he did say USC is definitely in his top 3. That's the only one he would identify. Clemson's been involved with him as well. He recently visited both schools, and he said he and South Carolina, they're on pretty good terms, is how he put it. He used to live in Beaufort and has been a Gamecock fan. He says he talks to USC at least 3 times a week. He talks mainly to Muschamp, who's telling him they need him at South Carolina. He confirmed USC, as I mentioned, in his top 3. He went to Clemson last week and watched the spring practice, talking to Venables and watching them practice. He said everything was great. And he's also been talking to Dabo Sweeney, who told him to make sure to go see what you need to see before making a decision. But they'd like to have him at Clemson. And he says, I think I'm pretty close. My mom, she said, just give it some more time. But he said, I think I know how it will go. He said she wants him to wait at least until June. He plans to return to USC pretty soon for another unofficial visit. He's also been to North Carolina, Tennessee, NC State, Wake Forest, Duke, and East Carolina. Per a source, 6'3" combo guard Devontae Bandu of Hutchinson Junior College in Kansas is expected to visit USC this weekend. He has offers from Oklahoma, Houston, New Mexico, West Virginia, and others. He was named All-Region this past season. A couple of more notes we'll give you in the second hour. We'll be back.